Good morning. I'm Ray Pucci. I'm the president of the Delaware County Chamber of Commerce, and welcome to Chamber Connects. We are recording this morning's program, and we'll post it for viewing on the Chamber's YouTube channel a little bit later on this morning. Also, the folks at Delhi Telephone and Catskill Air will be airing the program as well. In just a few minutes, we're going to connect with Assembly Representative Brian Miller. And if you have questions for the Assemblyman, please post them in the chat box, in the chat area. Before I introduce Brian, let me update you on a few things that your chamber has been doing recently. As many of you know, we've been leading the effort to develop a public transportation option here in Delaware County. We've been working on that for the past several months. The county has hired a consulting team that we're working with. They're nearing the end of their preliminary work, and we will soon schedule some schedule events to get public input on their ideas. And so please watch for those sessions as they come up and plan to attend. Our chamber board is fully engaged in setting priorities for 2023. It's going to be the Chamber's Diamond Jubilee year. That means 60 years of advocating, connecting, and helping Delaware County businesses grow. We have some online planning sessions planned, scheduled. They're going to be in mid-November. Please make sure you take a look at the newsletter for date and focus topics. They will all be online. So it'd be easy to participate, and each one's only going to be an hour long. Our next business after hours is scheduled for Thursday, November 3rd, a week from today, at Delaware Academy in Delhi, starting at 6 p.m. Kelly Zimmerman and her team at Delaware Academy will be presenting information about a new mentoring program that they've initiated that will hopefully place all of their 50-some students, seniors, in mentoring and internship positions with local businesses. So I do hope that you'll join us, and through your participation, you can really impact the career decisions for our local students. We'll be hosting a second program similar to that with our friends at Walton Central School sometime in mid-November. We haven't set that date yet, but again, watch the newsletter and you'll find that out. One last item. Two last items. November 7th, Joe Damone Photography will be taking professional headshots for businesses here at the Business Center. If you used film to take your last professional headshot, or if you're using your high school or college yearbook photo as your professional headshot, it's time for a new image. So I hope that you'll participate in that effort that we have here to kind of upgrade all of our images. Finally, our next breakfast is going to be on Friday, November 18th, of course, at the Hamden Inn. Mitzi Sackett with the Cancer Services Program at Bassett Healthcare is going to talk about health screenings as a way to promote workplace wellness. And as always, information about membership, chamber news, registration for the events, where else? DelawareCounty.org, the one place you can go for all that information. Our Chamber Connects series focuses on public policy issues that are affecting our members. Today, we're going to continue our look at New York issues, including some of those issues that remain pending at the state legislature. And I'm pleased to introduce to you a friend of the chamber, a friend of Delaware County, friend of mine, to you this morning as our featured speaker. Brian Miller was first elected to the New York State Assembly back in 2016 and currently represents parts of 7 counties. Not a lot in each of those counties, but 7 counties. Brian serves on the Assembly Committee on Agriculture, Committee on Consumer Affairs and Protection, the Committee on Environmental Conservation, and finally, the Committee on Transportation. He's also the ranking minority member on the Senate Committee on Real Property Taxation. Brian's professional training is as a mechanical engineer, and that background, to my thinking, is evident in his very thoughtful and methodical approach to public policy. Now, due to redistricting, Brian's representation of Delaware County townships will end at the end of this calendar year. He will, however, I am sure, remain a trusted friend and advocate for our local business community. Assemblyman, welcome to Chamber Connects.
Thank you, Ray, and it's good to be here. I really hate to have this be my my last one, but as we all know, this redistricting is going to continue for at least another year on where we're going to be.
Well, I'm glad I can participate in your interim swan song, but we're going to talk about redistricting in a few minutes. But the political life of Albany always tends to be more interesting during election years, and this past year certainly has been no different. So what I want to try to do with you this morning for a little bit is try to unpack several of those issues that are of interest to our business owners that you and your colleagues have there in Albany have been dealing with over the last several months. Let's start with the overtime rules on farms. The governor recently signed off on a schedule that would set overtime rates on farms and agricultural businesses at 40 hours per week. You're on the Assembly Agriculture Committee. You're also a former apple grower. So what's your reaction to that?
Well, that's been a tough one for not only us in the Assembly and the Senate, but the whole agriculture community across New York State. A couple of years ago, there was let's say a compromise made with none of the farms were happy with the overtime threshold set at 60, but there was a compromise made, with agriculture, the Farm Bureau, the union leaders, everybody involved to set it at 60. And, as we know, the farms are always adaptive to this, but then COVID hits and it's turned the agriculture community on end, not just with labor shortages, but with our petroleum costs going sky high. We've seen probably the last 2 years, I know in 2021, we saw, the farms experienced about a 22% increase in operating costs. And that was coupled with the overtime threshold set at 60. And then this year it's been running about a 10% operating cost increase. And, and we're all seeing that at the grocery store,
Sure,
wherever we are. But this overtime threshold being dropped down to 40, this is really going to hamper the competitiveness of all New York farms with our neighbors. New Jersey doesn't have it, Massachusetts, Pennsylvania. These H-2A workers, where they come in from other countries, they come here for our harvest or working in the greenhouses or what have you. They're here to make money, and it's really put an unneeded burden on our agricultural community to pay these costs. Dropping down to 40. Farmers don't overwork their people. I was an apple grower for many years, and I wouldn't ask anybody who worked for me to do things that worked as hard as I would. We wanted to pay them. We paid them fairly, but there's a window there for harvest.
right.
And we all know during the apple season, when the Macs have to come off the trees, you've got 2.5 weeks. And if it rains for 8 days out of the 2.5 weeks, you're going to put in many, many more hours than needed.
Right.
But these people come here to work, not to sleep. That's one of the big things.
Cornell Cornell University did a study of those workers, those seasonal workers, and what they concluded was about 30% of those workers were not going to come to New York because they couldn't make enough money. They couldn't get in enough hours during that really condensed period of time. And then Farm Credit East did a survey looking at farm labor and found that farm labor, when the threshold falls down to 40 hours per week, and that's over 6 days, that farm labor expenses are going to increase by 40%.
Oh, absolutely.
That just seems untenable to me.
Oh, absolutely. Let's think about what they put, what they did in the budget last year. Last year, the governor included a tax credit for all the farms to help pay for this overtime cost. And so it comes out of taxes. So who's paying that? We are.
And that's only for
Okay.
1 year, isn't it?
That's for 1 year. It's gonna have to be put in the budget every year coming forward. So who knows how long we're gonna be able to sustain this. So, it's been dropped down to 40. The Farm Labor Wage Board has voted it in. It was a 3-2 vote. The only no vote was the Farm Bureau.
Yeah.
But, let's think who's paying on this, and let's just go back to inflation. We've seen an all-time high inflation here since Ray, you and I can remember it back in the 70s. As you were talking about the
Yes, Brian,
high school senior.
you and I can remember the 70s, unfortunately. Yes.
Yep. And and we'll go back to the high school senior pictures. I think we'd like to use those, but let's think about that. That comes out of the taxpayer's pocketbook. In inflation's already, we go to the grocery store, we're already seeing it. So we're going to pay for the farmers to pay this overtime cost and tax credit. And then the cost of growing, not only with the overtime, but with the petroleum costs going sky high, which affects seed coatings, affects their diesel, their pesticide use. All of that is going to increase everything at the grocery store. So the consumer, the taxpayer, is going to be paying for all of this. And it's going to make us non-competitive to our neighboring states. So I don't think this was a really well thought out plan from the governor and in the Farm Wage Board, and it's really gonna hinder all our farms. The farmers are price takers; they're not price makers. We know how milk prices are put into place, but that's where we are. We're not going to stop fighting to get this repealed. This really has to be looked at. It has to be looked at again. A lot of the times when these farm labor, when the farm workers come on the farm, there's more than to their wages than just the monetary value. They some of them receive housing and other benefits like that.
Right.
But it's going to affect all of us in the pocketbook. And agriculture is a different animal, and agriculture in New York State's the #1 industry. And we're all trying to recover from it, and from the COVID pandemic. And now let's throw this on top of it.
Brian, you mentioned repeal. How does that happen? The legislature, when it established that Farm Labor Board, took itself out of that equation.
Yes, we did. But
so how does this get affected? How does this change? How can this?
Well, we're just going to have to keep have the farm community and Farm Bureau, and then all the other not in all the other agencies keep on writing to the governor, writing to the legislators. We need to grassroots, groundswell to get this changed.
So the change really need to happen at the executive level. It's not a legislative.
Well, right now, that's the way it looks it's going to be. When we get back to Albany, I'm sure there'll be more discussion on this, but it's really going to hamper our farm community. And it's going to hamper all of us in the pocketbook. It's something that really needs to be looked at.
Yeah, and we all know that agriculture agricultural businesses tend to spend more of their business spending dollars. That makes sense.
Yes, it's going to be all
Back
spent
back
locally,
into the community.
right? It's going to be right back locally. That's where it's going to be.
So if this is this is something that affects all of us. Let's shift from agriculture and talk a little bit more broad with businesses. Earlier this year, all employers received a notice from the Department of Labor, and the Delaware County Chamber included, that our unemployment premiums were increasing, that we got an additional surcharge. And in large part, that's due to state mandated closures and staff reductions that created a spike in the unemployment rate in New York State. And all this is happening while the state was receiving billions, with a B, in COVID relief aid from the federal government. Is there, speaking about repeals, is there any hope that that surcharge, that premium, can be reversed, can be changed, can be lowered?
Well, that's going to affect everybody here in the business community. That during the pandemic, I know we borrowed $11.9 billion to pay our unemployment insurance cost. I know the state still owes $9 billion. This was talked about last year during the budget. We knew it was here, and we just there was nothing done in the budget to use some of that recovery money to take care of it. The money was used elsewhere, and this is translated to what, roughly $200 per employee to the employer.
Sounds about
something
right.
like that. I believe about $28 an employee per month or whatever. This is just another tax, another bad deal given to all our small businesses. It needs to be talked about. Session's going to be coming back up in January. Will there be a special session on this? At this point, too soon to tell. There's still races. We still got 12 days before elections, and who knows where we're going to be. But this is definitely a problem. It should have been put in the budget last year. We talked about it. I know my conference did. It's there. It's just another bad business practice by New York State, shuffled down to the businesses as a mandate, and it shouldn't be there.
Yeah, and I want to thank you for being so vocal about that last year. It's an issue that I raised with you and our other representatives in Albany. It's something that the New York chapter of the National Federation of Independent Businesses, NFIB, raised as one of their large issues, and we worked and they coordinated those efforts of a lot of chambers around the state. But we created some champions like you on that issue, but like you said, it kind of fell by the wayside among the majority in the legislature. Probably the biggest issue as far as having the largest or the long-term implications is one that you alluded to a few minutes ago, and that's what is happening with redistricting. As you and I noted earlier, you've been redistricted out of Delaware County, but that could change. Would you explain what those shifts in district lines may happen, that we may still see coming up in 23?
Yeah, we all see the redistrict. We all saw the maps that were drawn last year. We all saw how the congressional maps were drawn, accepted, and then taken to court and then redrawn by a special commission. And so they were finally straightened out. Then there was a lawsuit that was filed again on the assembly maps,
right,
after they were accepted by us. The 101st is still going to be there. And the 101st now goes from New Hartford, and it's just about one town at a time, over to, through Oneida County, through Herkimer County, takes a right-hand turn down through Otsego County, and right straight down through Delaware County, Ulster County, ends up down at the bottom in Orange County, and then one town in Sullivan. So the 101st is still there. It just got pushed over to the west.
Yeah.
And in my new district, well, during this whole time, there were maps drawn. I still had Delaware County. I had all of Otsego County, a little bit of Herkimer, where I live in Oneida, southern part of Oneida. We were happy with that map. There was another map where they pushed me north, and they changed things around, and they put some assembly people that would have primaries against each other and things like that. And that map wasn't accepted. But the assembly map that was finally accepted there, and I voted yes on it because no assembly member was made to primary each other. And the maps seem to be drawn a lot better for the constituents, because right now the 101st was a real tough map for the constituents. We made it work, and we worked hard at it, but
Yeah.
that's what you had to do.
Lot of miles on your car, I know.
Yep, 170,000 with 2 years of COVID, and that really changed things. But so there was a lawsuit put out there, and the judge said that it's going to be thrown back into the Independent Redistricting Commission. I don't know if that's where it should be thrown back to. They already tried it once and they failed at it. Maybe it should go back. It should go to the map master that they use for the congressional maps and the Senate maps. Whoever that was seemed to make the most logical sense out of it. He made an engineering problem out of it, and those maps were drawn pretty good. But it's going to come, there's going to be a map that's going to be drawn. I believe it'll be out. They got a date for the end of December. And if that can't be accepted, it's going to go into next year. So the assembly, stay tuned. It may change. I may get back Delaware County. Who knows? So that's where we are. That's going to add to the chaos in Albany again, because the assembly members will be, wondering where they're going to be, who their constituents are going to be, just coming off an election where everything has changed. So, but I'm sure Delaware County is going to be in good hands with Chris Tague, and I believe Joe Angelino will be the other one, and Brian Maher and whoever's running against him over there. And I know in Chris Tague's district, there's a gentleman running against him too. So
yeah.
You'll be in good hands, and who knows, maybe I'll get you back.
Brian, I'd be remiss if we didn't talk a little bit about the state budget. Now, granted, we're several months away from that state budget process, but this year it seemed like that budget process was even more complicated and included a lot of non-fiscal issues that got loaded into that budget. Any impressions now, 6 months away, about the budget?
Well, last year's budget was 221 billion. Okay, the governor said we were flush with money. It was recovery money. That wasn't sustainable. We all knew it. For 2024's budget coming up next year, in our legislative session.
Yeah.
I don't know where it's going to be. I know where it's going to be a long budget. If you want to call a budget season, it's going to be a long budget negotiation. There's going to be a lot of programs looked at. Hopefully we won't be including any new stadiums anywhere in New York State that we don't need to put money into. We need to put money back into our small businesses, to our local communities, to our roads. That's, we need to go back to priorities. And what we talked about earlier, we need to come up with a way to pay off that $9 billion that's being passed down to the small businesses on their unemployment insurance.
Yeah.
So I don't really know where that's going to be. The one thing my office asked We see all the advocates during budget time on
Yeah.
Tuesdays during lobby day. Um, uh, I like to see in August, September, November. That's where we could really do a lot of work on, where your needs are. We can get, we can call our colleagues in the legislature and say, can you help us with this one? We got this program here, and things are going on. That's where, the wants, and it just helps our offices function more efficiently. And, like you said before, I'm an engineer, and we try to find the best ways to do things.
So do you think some of that's going to happen after November 8th? Once people take
Well, we
able
just
to
talked,
exhale and get
we just
settled a
talked
little?
about redistricting. I think that's going to be probably one of the big things. And after November 8th, who knows who the governor is going to be. So we're going to have different things there. If we have, if Lee Zeldin wins the race or Kathy Hochul stays here as governor, things will stay the same, or they may take a different direction. But one thing I just want to say, that the budget's going to be worked on. We're going to look at every piece of it. We want to make sure there's more money in there for roads. We need more money for our local communities. There's a lot of things going on. We need more money for our right in Delhi in Delaware County. And I know Sean Lewis is on. There's been some talk in Otsego County about some infrastructure works here and there. I know Delaware County in Delhi, we got the sewer project down there.
Yeah.
There's a lot of things there. We want to keep those monies there. So really too soon to tell. Let's get through these 12 days here, and then we'll be happy to come back and we'll talk about the budget again.
I just want to remind folks who are on the call, if you have some questions that you'd like me to ask Brian Miller, please put them over in the chat area. Brian, you touched on some of those priorities that it sounds like you have for 23. What are some of those others?
Well, one of the big things is our bail reform priority. That's been huge here, and it affects all of us. What I'd like to do is, of course, and I know a lot of the other colleagues, and it seems to be maybe a groundswell across the state right now, is I'd like to see a complete reform of the complete repeal of the bail reform, and for us to look at. I always step back to my engineering background. A good engineer, when you make a bad design, you don't be too proud to take that drawing and crinkle it up and start all over again. And I think that's where we really need to do. There needs to be some reform, but we need to sit down with the experts in the field, the law enforcement, the DAs, the legislature, and let's come up with a good plan moving forward that's going to work for everybody. So that's one of them. The overtime thresholds for the farm community. That's another priority. And like I said, we need to get more money in our transportation budget. We live in upstate New York. Last year's MTA increase was more than the entire CHIPS budget for the entire upstate. There was more money in there for Bridge New York and some CHIPS, but we really need to focus on that. We're talking to the business community. These roads are a lifeline to your businesses, and without that, we can't get people there.
We have a question from Sean Lewis. Brian, in a recent Freeman's Journal, you mentioned a big area of focus for you was going to be supporting families. What specifically do you plan to do in that area?
Well, supporting families, there's supporting families. It's a pretty broad statement that we made there. It comes down to, it touches on a lot of things. Make sure that we have the proper money in the schools. We need some more money in the schools and across the state for mental health issues. That'll really help. Some pre-K help too. So that's talking about the schools, but inflation is probably the biggest thing that we need to really work on. I know the conference had a bill there to eliminate sales tax on essentials. That'll help the families here. So that's the things that we need to do. That's probably one of the biggest ones. And to work with our chambers, our schools, our local governments on mandate relief, that we can hopefully cut some of the taxes along the way. And if there's any other bills that put any other bills that are put out there is a big thing of mine is if there's any if it's a mandate to a local community, we need to have state money accompanied to it. So, but those are the biggest things, Sean. Helping families, we need to. It's very broad. Mental health in schools. We need to get good libraries. Focus on our libraries. We've been very fortunate to get more library money in there, and things like that.
Brian, I'm gonna give you a challenge this morning. A few months ago, we had your colleague Chris Tague, colleague in the Assembly, represents parts of Delaware County as well, and if he gets reelected in a couple of weeks, will continue to represent parts of this county. And Mary Van Valkenburg from up in Hobart, who's on the call this morning, said to ask Chris about being able to help repair some of the potholes on State Highway 10 through the village of Hobart, and was folks in that community contacted DOT and was told, well, you're on the list for 2027, and their reaction is, well, we can't wait to 2027. And Chris said, well, I'll look into that. And 3 weeks later, those potholes were filled. So you're on the Assembly Transportation Committee. If I may, let me put a challenge to you. As you probably know, because you drive down here into Delaware County often, and that often takes you down through Route 28, you know that there's been a long-term construction project going on outside the hamlet of Maridale, trying to take some of the curves off the hill and that kind of thing. And the team out there that DOT has contracted with actually is really doing a wonderful job. But a nagging problem that has faced, and a dangerous situation that has faced area commuters and businesses and residents, is that the lights don't seem to be synced up. We're down to a one-lane traffic there. And you're in a blind spot, so you don't know what's coming. And it looked like it got corrected. And then yesterday, again, folks are posting videos that the lights just aren't working, and that they're sitting through green lights as cars continue to come toward them. So if I can offer that challenge to you, your team has been so incredibly responsive in connecting folks locally with getting our voices heard at those state agencies. Is that something that you all might be able to take a look at for us down here?
Yes, we will take a look at it. We get right on those things. I know Route 10 is not just over in Hobart, but that's been a huge one for us. But this one here, this could be sounds like a safety issue.
It's absolutely a safety issue,
and it should be a pretty easy fix.
That mechanical engineer is showing through again, isn't it? Yes, one would think it'd be a fairly easy fix, and one that they had fixed, but now it seems like it's off again. At least that's what it looks like.
Okay, we'll get a hold of our DOT guys and see if they can
thank you
shake the crew up a little bit. But that's this back to Sean's question on helping families. That's one thing that we pride in Ray. You just jog my memory on what we do here in my office is constituent support. We have a great crew here. That's having the 101st, we had one town at a time through all these counties. It didn't matter. It doesn't matter who calls our office. We just take care of it. And then we tell our assembly members on either side of us what we did and how the problem got taken care of, or our Senate members. But our, constituent services, taking care of individuals' problems. I know we had a lot of issues with unemployment during COVID. And we were very fortunate to take care of a lot of those. Now we have a lot of issues on some of the Star Check rebates out there, and I wish we would have some better answers on those. But some people have received their checks and some haven't. I don't know if it's a problem down in Delhi. We haven't received any calls down there, but it seems to be a problem up here. But
Interesting.
Constituent services is one thing that is helping families throughout the 101st, and that'll be our goal in the 122nd.
Brian, earlier this week, Department of Labor released its most recent unemployment statistics. And it showed that the unemployment rate in Delaware County for the month of September was 3.1%. That's just an astounding number to me. And our businesses, many of our businesses are not operating at full capacity because they don't have the staffing. We have restaurants that are closing certain days because there isn't enough staff. Are there some solutions, do you think, out there that the legislature might be able to help with to encourage folks back to work? I mean, I know we have people moving out of New York State. We see those headlines all the time. But it's something, there seems to be a disconnect going on.
Yeah, that's a great question, Ray. I get asked this all the time. We were asked this the other day at an interview. We came off COVID. It seems to be the great
Resignation.
I said it before, and some people give me a little hard time about it. I think a lot of people reevaluated their lives and working the way they did. It's not helping us. This is the first time in my lifetime that you can walk out there and you can see help wanted signs everywhere. How do we get the public back to work? I know we lost a lot of people. That's been one of the hardest things I've had to hear in this office. I know when the governor had our healthcare workers mandated for their vaccinations and their vaccinations, a lot of them called the office and said they were going to leave New York, and the housing market just happened to be at the right time, and they could sell their house within a week, and they were gone. I wish I had the silver bullet to this. I don't know. There's talk. We talk about it every day. We talk with employers. We talk to employees. There's people. Everybody's working, but there's this. Where'd they go? Are they home? Did they leave? I don't know. We got a lot of semiconductor business coming here in New York State.
Right.
Micron in Syracuse. I know the president's going to be out there today talking about that industry coming to Cicero. They're going to be looking at 6,000 jobs. How are we going to fill these jobs? And in the Mohawk Valley, we got Wolf Speed here. There's 700. There's businesses going up left and right, but I don't know where they went. In the small businesses, we experience this every night. You want to go out on a Monday night, places are closed now. You can't go out for dinner. But it's not just hurting the small business; it's hurting the childcare providers too. They're not there anymore, so it's compounded the issue. So I need to go to work. I got young children before they go to school or after school. I can't find the childcare for them. I can't go to work now. So we got issues all over the place, and it's I'm sure this is going to be something. And we talk about this every day.
One of those, compounding issues is that of affordable housing. We certainly have seen that here in Delaware County, where the price of what used to be considered a starter home is just out of reach for many of those first-time home buyers. again, I know this is high on your list of topics, and you and your colleagues are talking about this, but do you think, are there some solutions? Are there things that where the New York State legislature is not all powerful, and there are market forces in play here. But are there some solutions that may come from the legislature to solve some housing problems?
Well, we know there's been a housing issue for a long time. I know, some of the businesses, and we'll talk about some of the businesses up here, they're putting in their own housing here and there. I
They
know
are.
in Utica, yeah, they are. And I know some of the, there was a $45 million grant in the city of Utica for revitalization and some mixed income housing. So there's money out there. We just got to go out and be able to find it. And we need to have some of our private investors come out and start investing in some of the communities too. So it's an ongoing discussion. Let's get back to Albany. Let's talk about it, and let's see where we can go. But these are all compounding issues that are hurting everyone to try to find the employees.
We mentioned that November 8th is election day, and obviously that's what everyone's focused on right now. But regardless of who's going to be in the governor's office on January 1st, there are still a lot of issues that have been unresolved that are affecting residents and business owners here in New York State. You mentioned before that you're really not certain if there's going to be a special session. Do you think that there will be calls for a special session, depending upon who it is that gets elected governor?
That one I can't answer. I know we've had 2 special sessions since I've been here. One for the bridge down in well, that got done before that, but we had the gun issue. We had the concealed carry bill came out in the end of June, the first day of July.
Yeah.
A special session, I really don't know if there's going to be one. Let's just wait and see. We'll see where it goes.
Brian, you mentioned your staff, and you have a terrific staff. David, Susan, and the rest of the team that you have there are visible, responsive, all those things. So thank you for allowing them to be as responsive and really setting that tone for your staff. If folks want to get in contact with your team, what's the best way that folks may be able to do that?
Well, right now you can call 315-736-3879. Susan and I are in the office. Chances are you're going to get me on the phone. There's 2 of us here, and I do answer the phone. And a lot of people say to me, and I answer the phone, Assemblyman Miller, and they'll start talking, and they'll want to talk to the Assemblyman, and they'll say, "You are talking to the Assemblyman." And another thing is when you call the office, you have David down in Albany, but right here in New Hartford, it's probably the easiest one for you guys. And we do have an office down in Wallkill, but Ann takes care of the southern part of the district. But we spend a lot of windshield time, and that's time in the car. I was a sales engineer, and that's what they called it. But we have a lot of time. Susan will be with me, or David, and there's a laptop, set up hotspots. Libraries are a good place where we pull into when we can't get the internet and the broadband, the coverage we need. But you call, we call you back. I have a call list that they put out every day for me, and I make calls, and we want to be able to take care of your problems as quickly as possible. One of the hardest things I have is telling you I can't help you.
Right.
That's sometimes it's a heartbreaking situation, but we're here to help, and we've had a great working relationship with the Delaware Chamber of Commerce and Ray, and we're going to continue that even after we do move a little bit to the northeast.
Well, I'm counting on that. Brian, thank you for spending so much time with us this morning. I continue to value your friendship and certainly your continued support for what we're trying to accomplish here at the Delaware County Chamber, and the support that you've offered to invaluable support that you've offered to our businesses. So thanks for spending time with us this morning.
Thank you.
And thank you everyone for joining us this morning. Go to delawarecounty.org for more information about upcoming events, those planning sessions that I mentioned, and news that you can use in your business today. And remember, the Delaware County Chamber at the Delaware County Chamber of Commerce, we engage in many views so that we may speak with one voice, and because of that, we are stronger together. We advocate, connect, and grow. I hope to see you all soon. Thanks for joining us this morning.